What is going on YouTube? Today we are going for the Uncharted 2 Platinum Trophy. As some of you may have seen, we already have the Platinum for the first game, so it's about time that we get the videos out on the other two in the Nathan Drake collection, starting with the second game. This high-octane action shooter pretty much improves on the first game in almost every single way, apart from the very helpful friendly AI.
Boom!
Uncharted 2 has a total of 44 trophies to achieve the Platinum and comes with an estimated time of 15 hours to complete. I have played through this game several times and even have 12 of the trophies from a part replay done in 2016. We do have to play the game on crushing difficulty, which is why it has a rating of 5 for difficulty. Much like the first game, the hardest difficulty was no joke and Nate got consistently railed throughout the playthrough. Since we are playing it on crushing, it only takes one playthrough and a little bit of cleanup after with chapter select. As always, please do leave a like if you enjoy the video as it greatly supports the channel. Comment below if you have any games that you want to see videos on, and of course subscribe if you want to follow our journey to 100 Platinum trophies. Now, with all that covered, let's hop back into Nate's journey and start the second game. The game starts with Drake having a power nap on this derailed train hanging off the side of a cliff. Bit of an odd introduction, honestly. We of course have to do some hardcore parkour and climb our way to safety, where we not only take another nap, but we also get a flashback explaining a little bit of why we are in this situation. It was in the flashback that we got to meet Flynn and this dime piece called Chloe, who are also treasure hunters. They have got their hands on some plans to go after this Aladdin-like lamp belonging to Marco Polo, and you guessed it, the lamp has some clues to a hidden treasure that we all want to get our hands on. With the introductions out the way, we then wake up from our nap and get to see just how much damage has been caused. This first part serves as a bit of a tutorial to the basics, and we of course fly through it. Just when we were making some progress, we were then knocked back into another part of the train and then took a tumble down the mountain, knocking Nathan out. In this flashback, we get to watch Nate and Chloe smash, and while we are having the time of our lives, Nate remains out cold. Eventually though, we do wake up and make it out of the wreckage, where we stumble across this forbidden butt plug and then proceed to bleed out, taking us back in time. After that brain blast, we now get a bit more of a linear experience, starting back at the original mission where we went to steal the Aladdin lamp mentioned earlier. This involves breaking into a well-guarded museum with Flynn, and outside of a bit of parkour, we are also introduced to some stealth mechanics which were actually pretty cool. It was here that we were able to eliminate 10 enemies in a row with hand-to-hand combat, netting us our technical first trophy for the run. This robbery was going great as we climbed around the museum and took out plenty of guards. We were finally able to make it to the room holding the lamp and other artifacts, and after getting a hold of it, Nate decides to just smash it on the floor. Don't worry though, we had a valid reason, as it turns out that there was a map hidden inside the lamp written using invisible ink. The resin from the lamp when lit will turn blue, and then this can be used to read the map. Actually pretty cool, I have to say. This map shows the way to something called the Chintamani stone, which is also rumoured to be a cursed stone too. While Nate was having a bit of a nerdgasm over the map and its contents, Flynn was able to pull a sly one and decides to betray us. Bruh. This was a bit of a kick in the balls, as we are then chased by a lot of security guards and have to make a quick exit. A short chase sequence basically led us to try and vent away like in Among Us, however this plan backfires as on the other side are 4 armed dudes ready to send us to the Shadow Realm. Nate of course gives up at this point, and we are then taken 3 months down the line to see we have been sent to prison for our antics. This day is special however, as we were then saved by none other than the main G, Sully. I do not know how or what he done to get us out of here, but we are not going to ask, and we of course are eternally grateful. This great reunion then is shortly interrupted as Sully reveals that he has been working with Chloe, and Nate is not too happy about that obviously. It takes a little bit of time, but we do eventually talk it out, and it turns out that Flynn was on his own with this one, and he wanted to return the information to get in with the big bad of the game called Lazarevich. With that knowledge, we then decide it is time to get some details on what exactly Flynn and Lazarevich know. This involves going to one of their compounds hidden in this forest, and originally the plan was to sneak in. This sneaking plan falls apart immediately as I just started shooting people, and it then became a plan of blowing up parts of the base. We then use this carnage to draw some of the enemies out and quickly sneak into the main building and locate the information we were after. Turns out there is a site that we need to go to and visit close by, but first we now have to fight our way out of the main building and back to Sully on Overwatch. This combat section was extremely painful as we died a lot. Like, a lot. And we were reminded immediately of the crushing difficulty and its rage-inducing moments. After being reset here so many times, we do finally make it through and then make our way over to the site referenced in the notes that we found at the base. First off, we were able to get a trophy here for finding our 20th collectible out of 101 inside the temple at the site. Nate and the gang eventually come across this skeleton who was holding onto that forbidden butt plug from the intro, and another map referencing a city called Shambala. We also learned that the butt plug is actually a key and is used to basically get into and open parts of Shambala. With all this information, we decide it is best to get out of here before someone turns up, and right at this point, Flynn and his boys rock up. We also then get to see Chloe promptly change teams, which at the time causes a lot of confusion. But it turns out that she's actually playing both sides really, and is mostly on ours despite some questionable actions. As soon as Flynn turns around to go and inspect the site that we have just came out of, Chloe then decides to endgame some of the guards escorting us and gives us the key that we had found. Nate and Sully are now thrown into an escape sequence on this cliffside. This part here was just about as much fun as a sandpaper flashlight. There was literally nothing that you could do to get past this spawn point, and you just have to completely rely on the RNG gods to let you pass after enough suffering. Since we were on a cliff face, it did not take long for us to get caught at a dead end, and we then yeet ourselves off this cliff into the water below. We then fast forward a bit to Nate being in Nepal following some clues from the map. This is quickly interrupted by a military vehicle that thinks that we're playing Mario Kart and then rams us off course. He is not done with us yet though, as he then tries to run us over and we have to take a detour down this alleyway so that we can send him back to the lobby. This city area was actually one of my favourites from memory, but we were not playing on crushing difficulty back then. We of course sneak around the war zone at first and weirdly enough get saved by this battle bus giving us an opportunity to get some weapons. Nate then parkours through some of the ruins and makes his way towards the rendezvous point. While doing this, we were able to locate a hidden relic of the game in this sewer which nets us a trophy. Sadly, parkour and stealth were no longer an option as we enter this open combat section, which we actually managed to get first try surprisingly. While here, thanks to some previous stats and some newly obtained kills, we were able to get the trophy for getting 50 kills with the FAL. Just when we had thought we had killed everyone, another vehicle with a machine gun rams its way down the road and then proceeds to start blasting. Luckily though, Chloe was round the corner and comes in clutch with an RPG.
Damn, boy!
We then decide that we need to look for a tall building to get a view of the city where we can pinpoint which building we need to get to using the ancient butt plug that we found earlier. We decided on this nearby hotel, and of course getting to the hotel had its own set of challenges. The first one being this big open gunfight that you're forced to have right outside the hotel. While we were here though, we did actually start the fight off with a trophy by getting a total of 50 enemies with stealth attacks.
Yeah, baby!
Then, this very painful fight started, and at first, we had an amazing run. Some very close calls, but our luck finally ran out close to the end as we proceeded to get railed. And again, a few more times after that, but we were still nowhere near the point we got to on our first go. Eventually though, we do lock in and get past this section. Our reward was a fight with Lizzo and one of her backup dancers. These thick boy enemies are no joke and a massive problem throughout the run. Here, however, we ended up having a lot of grenades and proceeded to throw them all at her, and after inhaling them all, we took her down very easily and kneecapped the backup. Since nothing is simple in this game, Lizzo actually broke the elevator and we now have to climb this half-destroyed hotel all the way to the top. This did have a fair few combat sequences, but also some very fun parkour. After some failed attempts, we do make it to the top, and it is here that we can get a view of the city and which building we need to get to. With the objective in sight, we then zipline down and decide to use the rooftops to make our way over to the temple. This section here might be my favourite sequence out of the whole series honestly, and I am so glad that it still holds up to this day. Our parkour adventure gets very quickly interrupted, believe it or not. This obviously changes the immediate objective to just fucking leg it. We do get some very cool parkour sequences here and some annoying combat sequences sprinkled in too. Eventually we do end up inside one of the buildings thinking that it would at least give us a chance to breathe, but no. The wall right next to us gets blown up and we have to awkwardly roll back to safety. Safety being used loosely, as we were then immediately sent back to the lobby. After fighting our way through this building, in the end the helicopter decides he has had enough and brings the whole building down. We were killed before the building even came down by this flying table, but apart from that the helicopter succeeds and does bring the building down, forcing us to jump out during the middle of it into another building. For some reason we decide to head back to the rooftops. As you know, that's been the safest route so far. Boom. Where we do of course get attacked a few times by some goons and have a final standoff with the helicopter that comes back for round 2. This time however we are armed with a grenade launcher. We were killed a fair few times here, which we are not going to talk about, but eventually we do take down the helicopter and we smoothly head back down to street level. It was here that for whatever reason Elena from the first game is in Nepal filming more war crimes for people's entertainment. Our conversation is cut short though by a spear from her new boyfriend, and we then introduce Chloe, which is also a bit awkward. Anyway, we all decide to head off as a group in the direction of the temple, and after a few puzzles and fights we do make it there. It was here that we split back up and left Elena and our replacement to guard the front door. Then, ourselves and Chloe decided to lose some brain cells by doing more simple puzzles that took me way too long to figure out. In the end though, we make it into this room deep inside the temple, and after we pop the forbidden butt plug into this stand, rocks just start floating out of the floor, forming a map of a mountain. Luckily, Nate plays a lot of that GeoGuessr game and knows exactly where it is. The bad guys, however, now decide that it is the best time to rock up, and we of course have to fight our way all the way back out. We do make it back out to Elena and her cameraman, but during the firefight he was shot in the side and is now bleeding out. We now enter a section that was one of the worst things I have experienced so far. We move insanely slow through this section and are also being chased by a small army and armoured cars. This particular part here, where we had to dip through the shop, was hands down the worst. I have 27 recorded deaths here, and I know I did not clip every one. After some virtual BDSM treatment,
Make it stop!
we do eventually make it out and hole up inside this building to try and catch a break. It turns out that there was an open party at this address, and the enemies turn up with the boys and Chloe switches teams again. In this epic standoff we are finally introduced to Lazarevich, and he is a bit of a menace to be honest. So he starts off by endgaming Elena's new boyfriend, and we of course retaliate by giving everyone a slap and jumping out the window. After being chased through some more alleyways, we decide for some reason to carry out on our journey with Elena. In the next combat section, not only were we reset a lot of times while we were hanging off of these signs, but we were also able to net ourselves a trophy for getting 10 kills with grenades while hanging. We eventually follow the bad guys back to this train yard and watch the main ones all hop on board. Now, our plan is to get ourselves on that train, but while sneaking through the train yard we grab another collectible and get the intermediate Fortune Hunter trophy. Stealth is not exactly Drake's strong suit however, as he promptly derails this carriage and crashes it into the middle of the small army. Somehow we were alright after the crash, but not for long though, as we were immediately killed on repeat for about 20 minutes. This section was honestly pure pain on crushing difficulty and caused a fair bit of rage. However, we do eventually start making some progress, and as soon as we thought we were getting somewhere, two Lizzos jump out of this truck and start blasting. Not gonna lie, I just hid for a long time and kept throwing grenades here. That was when Elena pulls up in this truck and saves the day, and we just ignore everyone and run to the car. Now, this may have been a worse decision, especially when you factor in what happened last time Elena drove. And just like she did in the first game, she proceeds to drive full speed towards the end of a cliff. However, before she goes off the end of it, Nate jumps aboard the train that got away earlier. The next couple of chapters are spent on the train, and we basically enter one continuous combat section, fighting from the back of the carriage all the way to the front. We of course died a lot over the next 45 minutes that we spend here, and we haven't even got to the worst of it yet. But before that, we get another trophy for getting 20 kills with this unique pistol. Now, let's get into what makes this level so difficult. It turns out that there is a helicopter escort, and as you can guess by all this open space, this was so much fun. Then, once we make it further down the train, we run into another Lizzo, and this one in particular reset me so many times it was not even funny. You literally have no time at all to move between cover, and we were not really stocked up on ammo, honestly. However, as we do get reset a lot, we were able to grab 2 trophies. One for getting 50 kills with the gun named after your wiener. Then another trophy for getting 250 headshots. Now back to dying for another 15 minutes over and over again. That is until we make it closer to the front of the train and are then attacked again by the helicopter. This time, however, we hop aboard a tank that's being transported and decide to shoot back. Once we take it down, it now just leaves the captain and his crew in the next carriage. We do eventually get close enough to dish out the people's elbow and take down the captain to retrieve our butt plug artifact. As sadly, as soon as we get it back, all of the others rock up and it kicks off a bit. So Nate gets shot by Flynn. Chloe doesn't really know how to feel at the moment, and while being chased down the train by goons, we decided to blow the train up, taking us back to the beginning of the game. We are going to fast forward a bit here and of course skip the bits that we have already played. So we're going to pick up from the point where Nate manages to make his way out of the wreckage but collapses in the snow and is found by this wanderer. He takes us to this Tibetan village and helps us with getting back to full health. Turns out, however, Elena somehow made it to this exact village, and we not only get to have a catch up, but we also get to meet the village elder. He basically sent us off on an adventure through an ice cave with this random man who doesn't speak English at all. Bruh. There is not much to really say here, apart from the cave turns out to be a hidden temple and it is being protected by these Yeti type creatures. Me and this Tibetan man nearly got our cheeks clapped many times and also exhaust some more brain power while solving puzzles. While doing one of the puzzles, we managed to find our 60th collectible for another trophy. Eventually though, we do make it to the main room, and not only do we find this book, but we are also jumped by a bunch of those Yeti monsters. After a narrow escape, we make it back to the surface and find out that this dude's village is being attacked by the Tsarevich's army. So of course, we go back to help the village, and in our first gunfight, get immediately killed. We spend the next 20 minutes making our way through the village, repelling the small army attacking it, and of course this was done with great difficulty. Fortunately, in the first couple of gunfights we were able to get a trophy for getting 30 total kills with the Moss 12 shotgun. Shortly after that, we then make it about halfway through and realise that these guys have brought a tank to this gunfight, meaning we are severely outgunned. Since we have its attention, the objective for the moment was just to run for our lives and we can deal with it shortly. This chase sequence through the village was actually pretty cool, even though there were times where we got a bit lost and paid the price for it.
You stupid.
Eventually though, we were able to utilise some RPGs that were left lying around from some of the dead guys we killed while being chased to damage the tank. And after ziplining over the tank and grabbing the last rocket that we need, we were finally able to finish off the tank. Now, Drake and Elena decide it's a good idea to chase the remaining forces back to their base to start a fast and furious chase sequence on this cliff face. Since Elena is driving and we know what is about to happen, Nate decides it's safer to actually hang out of the side of the car and jump to an enemy vehicle instead. This again is another amazing action sequence, and surprisingly I did not struggle that much here as we nailed it first try. This luck did not last long though, as Elena was ready to do her signature move and requires us to hop aboard to experience it. After killing us by nearly driving off of a cliff, again, we were able to get ourselves back on track and skip forward a bit to being on the outside of the enemy stronghold. Elena and Nate decide that we need to sneak our way in to avoid a huge open gunfight, however that requires brain cells that we were severely lacking. This part here might be my highest death count in the whole game, honestly. It was pure pain. The worst part was, as soon as we thought we had cleared the area, one dude would just pop out from somewhere and put us right back to the front of the gates. To put it into perspective, I have 23 minutes of 30-second death clips in this section alone. You are seeing only a small part of my pain here.
Oh my god!
But we do eventually make it through and then manage to catch up to Lazarevich and his crew as we spot them on this bridge heading deeper into the ruins. Again, we decide to sneak around the ruins and do a bit of hardcore parkour to try and avoid combat. It does start off really well, despite breaking our ankles by jumping off of here for whatever reason. We then just ruin it for ourselves entirely by shooting one of the guards, triggering the entire army to be on alert. What was even worse was that we got a checkpoint right after alerting everyone, forcing us to basically fight our way through now on every attempt. Generally, this would not really be a problem, but on crushing difficulty, safe to say this was a problem. Then, the cherry on top was that when we did finally clear all the enemies, I died by dropping off of this ledge, resetting me, and I had to do it all over again. Out of everything, Nate survives and he dies from that. Then we start making our way towards the main hall that also has a symbol stamped on the dagger. On the way there, we also get a fair few combat sections, and I want to take the time to just quickly say, I hate the friendly AI in this game. I know I said it earlier, but hands down it is the worst thing I have experienced, and I would rank it next to the Bethesda in-game partners for annoyance. Like, just look at this. Fortunately though, Elena and my bad decisions reset us enough times to net 50 kills with the SAS-12 for a trophy. We then shortly after, for the same reasons, were also able to net 30 Desert Eagle kills for this trophy too. In the end, we do catch up with the village elder that was kidnapped earlier when his village got invaded because of us, but he very quickly dies in front of us and I have no clue what from, to be honest. Anyway, we got other things to be doing, so we carry on and follow the trail of army members to track down Lazarevich. After many resets, we do push through each section and come across our 80th collectible, which nets us another trophy. Eventually, we do make it to the main hall, and the big booty baddie Chloe is here with Lazarevich and the gang. He then proceeds to threaten Flynn with the forbidden butt plug, and when they walk off for a bit, we drop down to try and chat with Chloe for some reason. Surprisingly, we have good enough riz and she does give us the dagger. It seems like she's back on our side for now, but has to keep her cover with the enemies, so we separate for now and then have to solve a puzzle that definitely did not take me 15 minutes. With the clues given from the puzzle, we then have to head to a different part of the ruins, and this of course meant more combat. The clues not only led us to several early graves, but to this weird wheel mechanism that opens up a secret entrance. While trying to locate the entrance that we just opened, we entered this small section here, which not only put us in a body bag several times, but also gave us the chance to net our 50th grenade launcher kill for a trophy. After fighting our way through to the secret entrance, we don't get to spend very long in here as Lazarevich and his goons rock up and we enter this standoff. Things are kind of at a stalemate for now, as we are using one of his men as a human shield, but the baldy has an Uno reverse card up his sleeve.
Oh, okay, goddamn.
With our shield brutally taken away, we are now kind of forced to stand down, and for the next chapter we have to help the enemies get into whatever this dagger is hiding. This section was not too bad, and we only died once, but I do not know what killed me honestly.
Hey, disconnected!
After fighting them off for a bit and making our way deeper into the temple, we opened this ancient door and realised that the dagger was concealing the ancient city of Shambala. But before we can take it all in, we enter another standoff as Lazarevich is sure he does not need our help anymore. Fortunately, the locals are not too happy that we have left the door open, and then ambush everyone, giving us a chance to escape with Chloe and Elena. This escape went about as smoothly as expected, and after being chased for a bit, we stumble across a bunch of dead bodies and decide it's time for a good chat. In this conversation, Chloe lets us know that Lazarevich believes that the dagger held the secret to immortality, not a city. But Nate, being big brain, realised that these creatures that are attacking everyone are a lost army referenced in his journals, who have also taken whatever it is that makes you quote unquote invincible. Our conversation gets cut short by those exact creatures that we were just talking about, and they proceed to clap our cheeks for about 15 minutes straight. In the end though, by using their own weapons against them, we were able to get through here. Now all that was left was a lot of back-to-back combat sections as we fight our way to Lazarevich, which of course involved sending Nate to the Shadow Realm a lot of times. Like, quite a lot of times. Normally, back-to-back combat sections are great fun, but on crushing difficulty, this took a while to get through. One small positive though, was that we were able to get a trophy for getting 30 RPG kills. In the end, we do make our way to the centre of the city, and it is here that we stumble across a 1 HP Flynn. For some reason, he has been beaten up and has now decided he wants to commit suicide with a grenade and try take as many of us with him. The idiot does manage to wreck Elena with the grenade, which pretty much means the girls are written off for the final fight. It's really weird because I actually liked Flynn as a character, and I don't really know why he done that or why he turned on us. It's not really explained. It just seemed a little bit silly. Anyway, with that, we go after Lazarevich on our own and find out that the resin from this tree is what causes the mutations or invincibility. Of course, the big baldy decides to slurp it all up, and we put the resin to the test by blowing it and him up. He of course gets up pretty promptly, showing us that it does at least work, and now we enter the final boss fight of the game. This hands down is the worst fight out of the entire Uncharted series, not just the collection either. So Lazarevich cannot be damaged unless you kite him past these resin ball sacks, and then you have to shoot them when he's near. That is if you can survive for around 15 minutes straight, but you will eventually do it enough times to kill him. This fight took me way too long, but genuinely, I stand by the fact that this fight is just absolutely awful. In the end though, we do manage to destroy enough of the resin to permanently take down Lazarevich, and in the process destroy the entire city. Nate now has to escape the city by running across this bridge that is also falling apart. We are going to ignore this fail right here, but after some very epic parkour, we narrowly managed to be the last person to ever cross that bridge in particular. We can't celebrate yet though, as Chloe proceeds to get jumped by this creature that was playing dead. Nate of course decides to join them on this slip and slide so that we can save Chloe, and after that extremely close call, we get Elena and make our way out of Shambala. Now let's fast forward a bit and summarise the last series of cutscenes. So we made our way back to the village from earlier, and a few things happen. Nate has somehow learned a little bit of Tibetan. Chloe comes over and kind of dumps us, or I suppose like leaves. I don't really know what it was, but she's going now. Elena unfortunately survived and is just as annoying as ever, but she is with Sully. No clue how he's here, but also no clue how Elena got here either. We then realise that we are going to have to stick with the OG wifey, and after that kicks in, the credits roll, and so does 4 trophies. So 1 for beating the game on easy, 1 trophy for beating the game on medium, another trophy for beating the game on hard difficulty, and finally another trophy for beating the game on crushing difficulty. Thank God that is over. Now let's go back through chapter select and fly through the cleanup stage. Just like the first game, the cleanup honestly is not too bad. First off, we managed to get our 30th kill with the revolver, netting us this trophy. With all of the gun trophies now done, it was time to go for the fisting trophies. The first one was for fisting 20 enemies after injuring them with a bullet, basically like a drive-by fisting. Then we had to do the drive-by fisting again, but for 10 enemies in a row for another trophy. Next up was a trophy for getting 5 kills with 1 explosion, which we managed to get on this truck that rocks up in this chapter. Since there are a lot of enemies here, I decided to go and finish off another trophy by running around and killing 20 enemies with hip fire. With them down, we decided it was time to go back and get the 2 collectibles that I was missing. When we go back and collect this one here, we managed to get the trophy for getting 100 collectibles. Then after going back to this chapter, we managed to get the 101st and final collectible for the Master Thief Collection trophy. This now leaves the photography trophy, which we are trying to save till last, and also the 3 speedrun trophies. The first speedrun we went for was to speedrun the first half of the train level. Not really much to say here, as we were on easy difficulty and we could just focus on blitzing through. After a few minutes, we managed to wreck half of the train with some time to spare, and net ourselves this level's speedrun trophy. Then we went back to the forest level from early in the game and managed to get 2 trophies here. The first one was for mispressing the photo mode in the speedrun, and when it pops up we of course get the trophy. So much for saving that one till the end. Anyway, we do manage to blitz through this level as well and manage to net ourselves another trophy. The last trophy on the list was to speedrun one of the chapters where we were being chased through a war zone. In my opinion, this was the most fun speedrun out of the bunch and I had a blast running through this level. It did not take us long to get through the level, and with some time to spare we unlock our final trophy. Then of course, shortly after that, the juicy platinum trophy for Uncharted 2. Overall, I really enjoyed replaying this game and going for the platinum trophy. I do think I found it a bit easier than the first one, but I don't know if that's because I knew what to expect difficulty wise. I personally think that this one is the best one out of the trilogy, and it genuinely still holds up today. It has an almost perfect balance of combat, puzzles, parkour and epic moments, alongside a really good story. There are only two minor things that I would complain about. Firstly is the lack of the legend Sully, and then of course that final boss fight. I strongly recommend that you check out or replay this game yourself, you will not be disappointed. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like as it does really help. If you are also interested in platinum videos and want to follow our journey to 100 platinum trophies, drop a subscribe as well. Don't forget to comment what games you want to see platinum trophies for in future videos, and thank you for making it all the way to the end. I will hopefully catch you in the next one.
我很喜欢冰淇淋。